Hey everybody, welcome to GMG Review. Today I'm taking a look at Warhammer 40,000 Crusade, the Beyond the Veil mission pack. So, what is this? Well, these mission packs are lay flat supplements for your gaming table for different ways of playing Warhammer 40,000 that are kind of divided up amongst that narrative open match play. And this one focuses on narrative play. It's an entire sort of like storytelling book. Almost think of it like a D&D module for playing Crusade games of Warhammer 40,000. And what does it do? Well, it provides you with a place to play in. So you're playing in the Nexus. It's the Pariah Nexus, which is like basically a big dead spot in space that Guilliman discovers, and the Imperium sends like a flotilla into to try and figure out what's going on during the Indomitus Crusade. Sends a bunch of Ultramarines and other like Imperial armies and stuff. And finds that the Necrons are building pylons again. What? They're building the big giant Cadian pylons. It's so funny how the Eisenhorn trilogy like reinvented 40k in such a huge way, and we're bringing these back now. The Eisenhorn trilogy being Dan Abnett's 3 books, Xenos, Malleus, and Hereticus. They basically invent these pylons. They're on Cadia. It even references them in the story for this. And they are basically warp calming pylons that were just outside the Eye of Terror at the Cadian Gate. They get destroyed at the end of 8th edition, going into 9th edition, and a big part of the Cadian Gate's destruction and the Eye of Terror spilling out the Cicatrix Maledictorum, I think I said that right, spilling into like the real world, is that the old ones, the Necrons, had built these pylons probably to try and keep that stuff in check. So anyway, the Stilled Worlds, this is where the Necrons started building these things again, and they're basically unaffected by them, but they blank out psychic powers and they drive people insane. They're basically what the Pariahs do. So all of the effects that the Pariahs in Warhammer 40,000 have, the psychic blanks, where they make you feel uncomfortable and it's like gross to be around them and you just like inherently don't like them. Imagine if that was being spread through like an entire subsector of space in the galaxy, and like quieting entire planets where like you can't think anymore. People just become like comatose. But of course, the Necrons are machines. It doesn't affect them. Like they're just they don't have to suffer from these things. So it's used to like still all the other life in an area. And that's what the Indomitus fleet like shows up and discovers is happening, and they start trying to take it back and like destroy these pylons and stuff. And of course, MacGuffin, other factions show up too for their own reasons, so you can play with any army. And that's what the first few pages of this book are about. So you get your storyline, so like the where and the why, Warzone Pariah. You get some redacted stuff because you gotta get some Ordo, Xenos, Clearance, Crimson things where you don't know what's going on in that area. And you get your cool like, where is this emanating from? So it's emanating from Zendu, and then all around is where the Pariah Nexus is. This is where all the planets that are being affected by these pylons being built and stuff are. The Blackstone pylons. And then there's the ones with skulls have been plundered and stilled, so like the people are all like quiet and empty and dead there, but this was an Imperial sector. Outlier systems on the edge that are kind of still okay, and then nodal systems, which are the ones that you can hop from spot to spot with. And so weirdly, the only people it doesn't seem to be affecting are like the crazy zealots. The Black Templars are okay, and the Sisters of Battle are all okay. Because for whatever reason, faith like pushes you through this, and like you can be your own star. You can follow your own guiding light. You can be one with the universe. I don't know why it happens, but the crazies don't like suffer any kind of ill effects from it. They don't seem to be bothered by it. And then it jumps right into playing Beyond the Veil games. So I'm just gonna go back to the content section here. You can see description of the Pariah Nexus, playing in Beyond the Veil, which is basically the standard steps for setting up a Crusade mission. New agendas, and what the agendas basically are there to do is to earn you investigation points or experience. So there are things you can try and accomplish while playing your Crusade games, and they either give you investigation points, which I'll talk about later, because they allow you to like upgrade your relics and your things that you find, like make them cooler. And just the other ones are like bonus ways of earning experience. You can buy battle honors, and there's special battle honors and stuff for the Pariah Nexus and things too. The new battle trades. Battle honors is the 4th edition way of saying learn experience in 40k. New relics of the Nexus, the Theater of War rules for Pariah Nexus, and there's basically like 2 levels. There's like a generic one you have to roll for and a D3, and then there's a D6 table of like horrible things that can make your games more difficult or just more interesting or thematic. And then you get all your missions, your Crusade missions, and there are a pile of them. You get Comm Patrol, Incursion, Strike Force, and Onslaught missions. And then that's the bulk of the book. It's 53 pages of missions, and then you're into the basic rules, because they reprint their basic rules here. The one thing they don't reprint in here, though, is the generic Crusade rules. And the other book I've reviewed today, which you can go open the cards and check out, Tactical Deployment, it left out the cards for the terrain. This leaves out the generic rules for Crusade, but the Tactical Deployment did print the terrain rules. Although I guess this prints the terrain rules too. I just wish, if you're going to have one, if the idea is you have one book in front of you to play these, I would have liked the generic, just like setting up a Crusade game and how do you track your units rules to be in here too. You didn't have to reprint all the Crusade missions from the core rulebook, but because they're replaced by these. But just being able to like understand how you earn battle honors and how you spend experience, battle traits, sorry, and how you get relics and stuff would have been nice. Just to have it all in one place for referencing. I'll talk about that more at the end though. So yeah, setting up a game, select a battle, determine missions, and again, what's interesting is you get 24 missions in here. You get even more missions than in match play because you get 6 full Comm Patrol missions, and I think Owen and I are probably going to play this because you're playing with power. It's nice and easy. And because I really want to play some Combat Patrol missions. We haven't played any Combat Patrol yet, and I want to paint my Battle Sisters. Like, I've been wanting to do it forever, but because I've just got the army box, there's not that many power, but I think I can do 25 power. And then I could actually play some games with them and have it matter, and like they kind of fit the Pariah Nexus, and I've got my Ultramarines who are there too for like the bigger games. I think if we're going to do some, and he's got Necrons now, I feel like this is a good way for me to do that series. So tell me in the comments if you think that's something we should do, is like I should paint up that. Because he really wants to do some stuff too, and then we could have like, he could do his Necrons and like expand into them because he's excited about that, and paint some like weirder units, and I could paint more of my Ultramarines and paint up some Sisters and have them too, because mine's a Crusading fleet, so like just doing all Imperials would be cool. Yeah, let's think about that. And then all of the missions are themed to the battle zone, so like what's going on in the battle zone, like these empty cities with like people just laying down, not moving, or like the stilled planets, and assaulting the big Blackstone pylons, or like researching the Necron relics and stuff. They're all like themed around that. And so it's your standard format from there. Read the mission, determine the theater of war effects. You have to roll for the Pariah theater of war, and then you can roll an affliction too if you want for both sides. Muster your armies, so it's 25, 50, 100, 150 power level. Pick an agenda. You secretly select agendas for the battle and write them down. They can export experience points or give you your information points too. And then you get 1 agenda for Comm Patrol, 2 for Incursion, 3 for Strike Force, 4 for Onslaught. And once you've selected your agenda, you reveal them to your opponent, and then you make your battlefield using the standard boards. And then you use the standard terrain feature setup rules. Attacker, defender, place objectives, choose deployment zones, and declare reserves and transport. Play the game. And then after that, it does put in these steps. So update your Crusade cards, take care of action tests, which they reprint here, which is cool. So see who died and who lived, like devastating blows. But it does just revert the battle scars to like see the 40k rulebook. And then it's like agendas achieve battle experience, see the 40k rulebook. It doesn't do like the whole like process for that in here, which I thought would have been nice. Update core experience points, battle experience, mark for greatness, dealers of death, and agenda achieved. And then determine your battle honors, which again refers to the rulebook. Update your combat tallies, add 1 of the battles played tally, and then update your order of battle. Increase your both battle tally and requisition points by 1, and make any notes that you wish to record following the battle. Get your special agendas. So these are cool because they have again to do with like the area you're playing in. So like some of them are kind of standard, purge the enemy and no mercy, no respite, like extermination order. These are pretty standard. But like uncover the answers is an action that I like. Each unit from your army gains 1 experience point for each mark on its uncovers the answers tally. At the end of the battle, if the total marks on uncover the answers tallies of the units in your army is equal to at least half the number of objective markers that were on the battlefield, you gain an investigation point. So there's 3 objectives and you get 2 answers, you get an investigation point, and you can spend those later on to get other cool things. Make contact, so like try and find survivors basically inside the thing, through the stillness, using a psychic beacon to try and talk through like the weird stillness stuff. And then battle traits, so these are cool, like veterans of the Pariah Nexus. When using the Pariah Nexus Theater of War, this unit's unaffected by any afflictions, so like it just doesn't care because it's now used to like the weirdness out there. And it's funny because that is straight out of the Eisenhower trilogy, where they go to like this weird pocket dimension that he's making this deal with these aliens in to get this like copy of an ancient like forbidden tome. And spoilers, sorry if you haven't read this 20-year-old book, I'm sorry. And they offer him like these like crack inquisitorial stormtroopers to go with him, and he's like, I'm going to take the guys who went with me last time. And he takes these like raw rookie recruits who have been through it though and come back and survive, that he like basically rescues from like the place beforehand before he goes and like calls in reinforcements. And when they're going and fighting at the end of it all to like try and hunt down the big bad guy, he has this like Death Watch captain with him, and the Death Watch captain can't compensate for how weird it is in there, but the rookie recruits are like just fine, and they're like yelling advice to the Space Marine, and the Space Marine's getting super mad. What was his name? Brother Captain Steinwolf. It's one of my favorite, like, oh, maybe it was, no, it wasn't Steinwolf, it was somebody else from the Death Watch though. It's one of my favorite parts in that whole series is when the raw recruits are like trying to instruct the Space Marine how to deal with the anomaly. And then you get Relics to the Nexus, and what's cool is they all have like a low grade, high grade. So you find them just like you would a normal like relic in Crusade, but they all have like a low and high level, and use investigation points to like figure out what they do. So like the Rod of Lambent Energy, it's a melee weapon with +2 strength, -1 damage, and -1 AP and 2 damage. But if you manage to unlock it, its strength goes to +3 and its damage 3. So it's +3 damage 3. So it's like it goes from like being like, oh cool, we found like a war scythe, to like, oh cool, we found like a void blade. You know what I mean? All of a sudden. The Sphere of Darkness, once per enemy psychic phase, you can deny the witch. If you unlock it, you have to add 1 to the deny the witch test because you've like figured out how to use it. So I really like that. I think that's really cool. And there's 6 of them in here. Did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there's 5 of them in here, Ash. You can't count, you idiot. But there's usually 6 of everything. Why would there be 5 this time? But yeah, but you get to like do different things. At the end of each battle, you can roll a d6 for each relic the Nexus a character model has. On a 6, the full power is discovered, so you can... Oh, geez, what was that? Oh, terrain just falling off because I'm kicking the end of this table. Sorry about that. You can like figure it out on your own, or if the bear's a Necron, you get to add 4 to this roll. So on a 2+, you figure it out because you just find like a Necron thing lying around. But then you can also spend the investigation points to do it too, which I think is just really neat. And what else we got here? Battle scars. So like, if you're a psyker, a character, a vehicle, or a monster, you get different ones. Then any other unit can have these ones. So like you can just become unnerved. Each time morale test taken for this unit, change all dice rolls to 6 at the end of any phase in which any enemy units were set up in the battlefield as reinforcements within 12. This unit can make a normal move to d6 inches as if it was your movement phase, because they run away. They just freak out. Discipline's just like broken down in the unit. I think that's awesome. Or Suffocating Madness for a Psyker unit. Each time a Psych test is taken for this unit, roll an additional d6 and discard the highest. Each time a melee attack is made by a model in this unit, you can reroll the wound roll. Because they're crazy good fighters, but they just suck at using Psych powers now because they're losing their minds in the stillness. I think that's super cool. And then, yeah, investigating the Pariah Nexus. So you can spend your investigation points to like study an artifact. When attempting to discover the full power, add 1 to the roll for every investigation point you spend, so you can use it to make the roll automatic. Mental conditioning, select 1 Crusade card from your order of battle that has 1 or more battle scars, and select a battle scar and remove it. So like you can basically toughen up from battle scars. Supply cache for 3, you can use the increase supply limit or fresh recruits without spending any requisition points. Local redoubt, gain a requisition point for 4. Relics the Nexus, select 1 Crusade card from your order of battle and gain a Crusade relic. So you can find 1 for 7. As with any battle honor, make a note in their cards. And then strength for adversity, select 1 Crusade card from your order of battle. They gain a battle honor for 9. So like you can use the investigation points for all kinds of stuff on top of just using experience. And then we get our Theater of War rules for the Pariah Nexus. So disorienting approach, this one's awesome. So it's basically the one from the Eisenhower trilogy where like everything's just like the geometry's all off and everything's kind of weird. So you're deploying your army, you have to divide your deployment zone into 3 quadrants, and then D3 to see which quadrant the units go into, because they just get mixed up. And if you can't fit them in, they're lost because they get lost in the way of the game. Sorry, roll again until another's determined, not lost. They go into a different one. It's the deferred reinforcements is the one I was thinking of. The reinforcing units can't be set up in the battlefield until the 3rd or subsequent battle round, and can't be set up within 12 of the enemy. And then faltering deployment. After declaring reserves and transports, each player must separate the remaining units of their army into 3 parts. Each part must include at least 1 unit. If a player does not have enough units to do so, they must separate the remaining units of their army into as many parts as possible. When deploying armies, each player selects 1 part of their army. 1 unit in that part must be deployed. At the reinforcement step of the first movement phase, that player selects 1 remaining part. So stuff just starts like staggering in, as opposed to being like all deployed at the start of the game. And then the afflictions are like the really bad like rules afflicting ones. So smothering silence, subtract 1 from psychic and tests and deny the witch tests, and you don't suffer perils of the warp at all. Unnatural dread, units always count as being below half strength for combat attrition. And then everyone's -1 leadership. Blackstone worsens invulnerable saves to a minimum of 6+ by 1. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff. And then you get all your missions. And the missions are all thematic and really cool. I'll look at one from each level. Anomalous readings. You're trying to deactivate these nodes. Orbital scanners cannot get a lock on this section of Smoldering Ruins. Our scouts report a series of disrupted nodes preventing signal returns. You're trying to break these like weird, like not quite Blackstone towers. It's control, and then it's deactivate, so progressive. At the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores 10 victory points for each of the following conditions, up to a maximum of 30. Control 1, they deactivated one, and there's an action to deactivate. They destroyed one or more enemy units that were within range of objective marker this turn. So you can deactivate a unit, you can control one or more objective markers, and you can destroy enemy units within range of the objective marker. So if you kill somebody that's within 3. And then Victor bonus, the Victor can select one unit from their army, excluding characters, vehicles, or monsters. If that unit can gain a battle honor, it gains a battle tested. Make a note of the battle trait in their Crusade card. Like automatically, they just automatically become battle tested from the anomalous readings, which is cool for a comp patrol one. And then we've got some incursions. An Eldritch Encounter. A reconnaissance patrol responding to ghost returns on their scanners, misty presences. They are 1 minute and gone the next. Have suddenly encountered a flesh and blood enemy force. As battle commences, both forces send desperate signals demanding reinforcements. So you do not generate a strategic setback. It's automatically reinforcements en route. Each player must place half the units in strategic reserve, rounding down, and this does not cost any command points. So half your army has to go in reserve, basically, because you're just like, you're lost and you encounter the enemy, like, out of nowhere with all these, like, ghost signals going around. And then missions are progressive, drive them back. At the end of each battle round, a player scores 10 DPs if more friendly enemy units than friendly were killed, and you can't get it in the first battle round. See them before you, endgame. Each player scores 20 DPs if they have any units wholly within their opponent's deployment zone at the end of the battle, and then you get 2 requisition instead of 1 if you win. What do we got for some big ones? Strike Force. Fueled by Faith, that's cool. As the war rages through the Pariah Nexus, a strange phenomenon manifested, fervent faith. This, it seemed, can hold the stilling energies of the Nexus at bay. Armed with the knowledge of this apparent miracle, commanders gathered their most impassioned warriors and launched maniacal assaults against those targets that had proven impregnable to less zealous armies. So you don't do a strategic setback. You have the March of the Faithful. The attacker's Warlord gains the following ability: March of the Faithful. Add 1 to the move characteristic of friendly units, excluding vehicles and bikers if they're within 6 of the Warlord. Add 1 to advance and charge rolls if they're within 6 of the Warlord. And then Zealous Assault. After declaring reserves and transports, the attacker does not deploy their army as normal. Instead, the attacker has the first turn, and in the reinforcement step of their morale movement phase, they must set up the remaining units from their army as reinforcements, wholly within. So you can't keep reinforcements. And you have edges. So you walk on to go to the middle of the battlefield. And the mission objective is repel the attack. Nothing shatters the glass of faith faster than defeat. Prove your foes that there's no hope and they'll surely be cut apart by the shards of their unbroken hopes. What a great line. The end of the defender's turn, the defender scores 20 if they control the objective marker in the middle. Objective cannot be scored in the first battle round. So you're trying to jump the middle, and that's it. It's a big middle meat grinder. Crusade of Faith, endgame objective. At the end of the battle, the attacker scores 90 victory points if their warlord's within range of the objective, or the attacker controls it. That's crazy. So all you have to have is your warlord in range or control it. So if your warlord is just alive and in range at the end, then the Crusade of Faith, you get 90 victory points. And then Victor bonus, the Victor's warlord gains 3 experience. If the Victor is the attacker and their warlord was in range at the end, they gain 5. So if you send your freak show, like, super faithful commander into the middle of the table and he holds the end of the game, you get an extra 5 experience points. It's bananas. And they only give you a few onslaught, or so you get 6 onslaught ones, which is cool. Valley of Dread. In this region, a pair of towering Necron structures form a natural valley with their dark and ominous flanks. Those attempting to force passage within the shadowy channel must endure the full spirit-withering force of the Pariah Nexus. The scene is set for a nightmarish headlong clash. And the mission rolls Aura of Trepidation. When a unit's within range of an objective marker, each time a morale test is taken, and an unmodified roll of 5+ is always a failure, no matter what their leadership is. That's crazy. And then VPs there's 6 objectives. On the center of the battlefield is like an 18-inch square almost. Then the player's command phase of the player whose turn it is scores victory points equal to the following conditions to a maximum of 25. 5 to control 1. 5 to control 2 of the gamma ones, so the other sides basically. 5 to control 2 beta ones. And then 10 if they, so if you control both, and then both, like left and rights. And then 10 if they control the 2 alpha ones, so like in both your zones. And you can't score in the first round. The victor can select one unit from their army. If that unit gains a battle honor, it gains a battle trait of your choice, making out the battle trait in their Crusade card accordingly. And there it is, one mission from each set. And then you get your core rules again, printed out, along with the train rules and some of the advanced rules, and then a nice glossary. So you have all that next to the table when you're playing. And that's it, Crusade Beyond the Veil. So, what do I think about this? Well, I love the format. I love the small book format. I love the fact that it lays flat and it's got relevant gameplay information, just all printed in the same book. A lot of people be like, well, I have the core rules. The core rules are on my phone or whatever. Like, that is a value added to this for me. I think that having the core rules available like at a glance and having like all of the reference material, in one place is great. I would have put in the 10 extra pages it took to put in the battle honors and experience stuff. That's just me. Because if you're gonna take that step to make it convenient with the core rules, make it all the way convenient. It's not like you're reprinting all of the core rulebook rules in here. You're not devaluing the big hardcover rulebook by putting just the Crusade rules in here. But you're making this a complete package. You know what I mean? You have the steps in there with the core of what you do when you play a Crusade game. Just go all the way and put the little bit extras in there. Reprint that stuff. I think that's a good If the goal is that this lay flat manual is next to the table so that you just have everything in one place, just go all the way. Make it a convenient tool. You know what I mean? And then I think it holds value. And two, this is absolutely the right way to make content for narrative play. It reminds me a lot of the old Warhammer Fantasy Battle campaign packs that I loved in the 90s, the cardboard packs. People remember the Grudge of Drong. Those ideas of having almost a D&D sort of module as a gameplay experience, they're fantastic. More of this, I think, is going to be super fun. I could see my friends and I playing a weekend of this, you know what I mean, where we're going to pre-generate a narrative. So here's what we'll do. So we're going to play 4 games in a weekend. We'll get 4 of us over and order pizza and drink beer. We're going to pre-roll what the 4 games are to set the narrative, and then we're going to build our armies accordingly. So you need to prepare 1 game of this size, 1 game of this size, 1 game of this size, and let's say it's we go back and forth. We send our combat patrol out, then we play an incursion game, or maybe we jump to a strike force game, then we play an incursion game, and then we end with another combat patrol. So bring models that are appropriate for those power levels of games, and we'll roll up what the missions are right now so we know what the story is going to be. And I think that's awesome, because then you could tell these little Crusade stories over a weekend, have them be different every time, you earn some experience and stuff, and you could play, let's say, a 4-game weekend of games with your friends and never have it be the same twice. So you just roll your D6s on each of the tables of game styles you want to play over the course of that weekend, and that's our little narrative that we just went through in the Pariah Nexus. And then we save those Crusade cards, and the next time we all get together, we bring our Crusade force and we roll up our next 4 games that we're going to play, and we just decide on how big the set of games we want to play are going to be. That makes this hold a ton of value, because it's like having a DM say, here's the story for this weekend, right? Go play these 4 story games. And we can sit and, if we do that pre-generation of what the missions are going to be, we can, name our characters and try and figure out what we're doing there and, write the whole narrative for, our gaming group. We can model appropriate terrain. We can make objective markers we like. That being, that little, here's a bunch of, here's a menu of things you can do. Now, generate from that menu and then go enjoy playing your games, it is exactly what I wanted in narrative play in Warhammer 40k. So I think this is brilliant. I think that what I just said out loud, though, you need to be me probably to get inspired to do with this book. So that would be the other thing, besides just putting in those generic core Crusade rules reprinted in here to make this an ultimately convenient thing, is put in some ideas on how to use this book. Because I see this as a great menu of options where I love things that inspire me to get creative, that little bit of extra creative, let's roll 46 and play a weekend of games. That's not in here, right? Tell me some best practices on how to use this. Maybe that's going to be a big Warhammer community article out there, but it would be 1 page, you know what I mean, in this book that you could always just kind of have in there of what are these books for? How do you use them? That's going to get people to get a ton of value out of these books and look forward to the next one. Because I'm stoked to go play have like a little exploratory journey in the Pariah Nexus, and I'll probably sit down with Owen and we'll do that as like a video. Like we'll roll our 4 dice and we'll get our stuff ready and we'll play through that narrative. Other people who aren't, you know, people who've been playing Warhammer 40,000 for 30 years, 32 years now. Oh God, what have I done with my life? Might not think to do that with this product, you know what I mean? So that would be my 2 key like little bits of like, I wish was in here. If it's going to be convenient, make it ultimately convenient by having all the tools that we need to update our army lists right in this book, because it's not a lot and it doesn't really add much to the page count. And give me ideas on how to use this book in here. Spark my creativity. It's going to make me buy models, it's going to make me paint and build terrain, and it's going to make me probably like way more excited about the next one of these when it comes out. So there it is. There's my review of Crusade, Mission Pack Beyond the Veil. From Games Workshop. I'm pretty stoked for it because I like that idea of like having this little space now in the 40K universe that I can go and play in, and a bunch of ideas for how to do that. I didn't feel that from any of the campaign books that came out in 8th edition. So this has done that for me, right? So there's an ingredient here that was missing from all those other campaign rulebooks where we got battles and stuff where I was like, bleh, I don't care. Where Crusade, I think, has now unlocked that. Just give me that little bit more where you give me some ideas on how to make a fun weekend with my buddies, you know what I mean, or a fun like series of videos with Owen out of that. Why did I come back with that? Anyway, big thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. You can tell my brain's on fire. Until next time, I'm Ash. Have a good day. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Desperate Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.